I look forward to coming to church every Sunday. I don't know, I can't even put that into words. Every weekend, I'm just full of excitement coming into the Sunday service, knowing that He's going to do something to change my life or someone else's. And it's unpredictable, but it's always going to be consistent with His goodness. So in late 2013, I entered into a season of depression that would ultimately go on to last about a year. And up to that point, I had never experienced anything like that, anything that heavy. Suicidal thoughts would pop up when I least expected it. I felt like I didn't know myself anymore. And even though I had grown up in a Christian home, I knew Jesus and I loved Him from a very young age, I found myself really starting to doubt His goodness. I think what made me the most sad was that I felt like I didn't know how to love people anymore. That if I did, it wasn't real. It was just like me faking it. And this came after years of not being able to be consistently involved in a church community, not having consistent Christian friendships, and I felt really deserted and like God had left me to do this life with Him all alone, and that just finally took its toll. In the middle of this season, I did feel like God gave me a promise that pointed to some hope. I felt it was from the book of Isaiah. I felt like He told me He was going to do a new thing in my life. He was going to make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And I didn't know what that meant, and it didn't change anything right away. But ultimately, it led me to do something I never thought I would do, which is move back to Arizona after college. So I found myself back in my hometown, living with my family again. It was not in my plans. And someone I barely knew invited me to come to Antioch Community Church. And my first Sunday, I showed up at church and was actually overwhelmed by the way people were pursuing me. People were inviting me to dinner and to coffee and to birthday parties of people that I didn't even know. And besides being impressed with how well they pursued me and loved me, someone who they hardly knew, I was so blown away with how genuinely they seemed to love each other. And I remember just like saying, God, I want to be like that again. I haven't been able to love people like that I couldn't even remember the last time. Once I finally jumped into getting involved with Life Group, I started sharing more than I'd felt comfortable sharing. And instead of getting rejected or feeling depleted, I felt like I was getting filled up with life. And instead of feeling caught up in my own head all the time, I got to spend time listening to other people, hearing their story, learning from it, and getting to appreciate how God pursues all kinds of different people in all kinds of different ways. So I felt like I was getting to know God even better than I could just by myself in my own quiet time, or even just from reading His Word. I also felt like I was able to hear His voice more clearly when I was in corporate worship at church. I would be singing my heart out with the whole church and just caught up in the passion of everyone else around me who's so eager to worship God and glorify God. And some of those moments in church were some of the most healing moments I've ever experienced. It wasn't in my quiet time that God redeemed my experience of depression. It was in a church service where He took me back to every moment where I had been alone crying in my car in Denver, every memory where I had not been able to get out of bed in the morning. And He showed me exactly where He was in every single one of those moments. And He spoke that to me in the middle of a Sunday service, surrounded by other people who He's also rescued.